Hello and welcome back to Fact Me Up channel. Today, we're about to embark on a journey behind the towering walls of the Shawshank Redemption. Join me as we uncover 18 hidden gems about this cinematic triumph, where hope thrives in the most unlikely places. So grab your rock hammer and get ready to escape into the fascinating world of Shawshank Redemption. Andy and Red's opening chat in the prison yard, in which Red is throwing a baseball, took 9 hours to shoot. Morgan Freeman threw the baseball for the entire 9 hours without a word of complaint. He showed up for work the next day with his left arm in a sling.
I think your shit smells sweeter than most.
To prepare for his role as Andy Dufresne, Tim Robbins actually spent some time in solitary confinement. He asked to be locked in solitary for a while to get a feel for it, although he knew his experience wouldn't be the same because it was voluntary. Clint Eastwood, Harrison Ford, Paul Newman, Gene Hackman, Robert Redford and Robert Duvall were considered for the part of Red. In the original novel, Red is a middle-aged white Irishman with graying red hair. However, director Frank Darabont always had Morgan Freeman in mind for the role, because of his authoritative presence, demeanor, and deep voice. Red's reply,
"Maybe it's because I'm Irish,"
to Andy's inquiry about his nickname was kept in the film as a joke. The American Humane Society monitored the filming of scenes involving Brooks Crow. During the scene where he fed it a maggot, the AHS objected on the grounds that it was cruel to the maggot and required that they use a maggot that had died from natural causes. One was found, and the scene was successfully filmed. Years later, director Frank Darabont admitted that he had killed the maggot himself. When Andy goes to the library to begin work as Brooks' assistant, and Brooks' crow Jake is squawking, Tim Robbins had to time his line.
"Hey Jake, where's Brooks?"
So that the crow wouldn't squawk over him, since the bird could not be trained to squawk on cue. Robbins was able to time his line perfectly by learning the bird's squawking patterns, for which director Frank Darabont praised him. Stephen King sold the rights to his novella Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption for only $5,000, out of his friendship with Frank Darabont. King never cashed his check for the rights to the film, and several years after the movie came out, he got the check framed, and mailed it back to Frank Darabont with a note inscribed, "In case you ever need bail money. Love, Steve." Director Rob Reiner loved Frank Darabont's script so much that he offered $2.5 million for the rights, so he could direct the movie himself. He wanted Harrison Ford and Tom Cruise to play Red and Andy respectively. Darabont seriously considered Reiner's offer, but ultimately decided that it was his chance to do something really great by directing the movie himself, and even took a pay cut in order to be allowed to direct. The film's initial gross of $18 million could not even cover the cost of its production. It did another $10 million in the wake of its Oscar nominations, but the film was still deemed to be a box office failure. Morgan Freeman has cited the film's difficult name as major reason for this, because back then in 1994, when there was no internet to speak of, word of mouth played a much bigger role in any film's success than later on, and Shawshank Redemption is definitely not the easiest name to remember. Interestingly, despite being a box office failure, Shawshank Redemption is the first IMDb title to have over 2 million votes, and remains the highest-rated movie worldwide. This was Morgan Freeman's first time narrating a movie, thus by his own admission jumpstarting that element of his career which raised his popularity even further. Unusually, the narration was recorded before filming began and was then played on set to dictate the rhythm of each scene. Freeman recorded the guide track in an Iowa recording studio in only 40 minutes. However, there was a minor hiss to the track, which sound engineers in Los Angeles were unable to eradicate. Consequently, it had to be re-recorded in a proper studio. This time it took 3 weeks.
All I want is to be back where things make sense. Where I won't have to be afraid all the time.
The mugshots of a young-looking Red that are attached to his parole papers are actually pictures of Morgan Freeman's younger son, Alfonso Freeman. Alfonso also had a cameo in the movie as a con who was shouting, A year after The Shawshank Redemption, he appeared as a fingerprint technician in another Morgan Freeman movie, Seven.
I've seen this baby take as long as 3 days to make a match, so maybe you guys want to cross your fingers somewhere else.
Despite being widely considered as one of the greatest movies of all time, it didn't receive a single Oscar win, though it was nominated for 7, including Best Picture. Clancy Brown said that he had received several offers from real-life corrections officers to work with him, in order to make his portrayal of Captain Hadley more realistic. He turned them all down because Hadley was an evil character and he didn't want to misrepresent real corrections officers. In the close-up of Andy's hands loading the revolver in the opening scenes, the hands are actually those of director Frank Darabont. Later in the film, while Andy carves his name into his cell wall, Darabont's hands are used again for the insert shot. These close-ups were filmed during post-production, notably because Darabont felt that only he could do exactly what he wanted in the close-ups. The exteriors were filmed at the defunct Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. The prison was in such poor condition that renovations had to be made prior to filming. However, most of the interiors were shot on a soundstage, because they determined it would be cheaper to build duplicates of the interiors rather than renovate the interiors of the prison.
I'll take the chubby fat ass there.
Jon Favreau auditioned for the role of Fat Ass, but didn't get the part. He later told Empire magazine that this was the worst audition he ever did, and it encouraged him to try and lose weight. Frank Darabont watched Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas every Sunday while shooting this film, and drew inspiration from it on using voiceover narration and showing the passage of time. Jeff Bridges, Tom Hanks, Kevin Costner, Tom Cruise, Matthew Broderick, Nicolas Cage, Johnny Depp and Charlie Sheen were all considered for the part of Andy Dufresne. Hanks turned it down because he was committed to Forrest Gump. Costner liked the script a lot, but was then embroiled in the filming of Waterworld, and the other candidates just weren't the right fit, so the part went to Tim Robbins. Despite the film's box office failure, Warner Brothers shipped 320,000 rental copies to U.S. video stores, a figure a spokesman freely admitted was out of whack with the film's performance in theaters. The film became the most rented video of 1995, and one of the highest-grossing video rentals of all time.